Red vs. Blue Season 16 Episode 4 Sis and Tuc's Sexellent adventure, what a unique name for an episode, has officially released, so let me break it down for you. As you can tell from the title, the episode primarily focuses on Tucker and Sister. Continuing where we left off last episode, Tucker has agreed that going back in time to bang celebrities is a great idea. But the topic of them almost doing a sex is brought up once again, and an argument ensues leading them to agree to go back in time to see what really happened. The most important thing that I want to talk about here was Tucker shooting flowers. At first, I was very indifferent on that scene, but the more I thought about it, I actually thought it was a great choice to affect the moment. So when Tucker and Sister arrived at Blood Gulch, they said, oh, this must have been when we were fighting Wyoming, which, whatever context for when things are happening. But by the time Tucker is looking at his past self and flowers, the fight's over. The reason I thought this was a great decision to effect was because for over 10 years there has been a question mark on that moment. Wyoming was killed before these two began talking. All of the Wyomings were dead. I, much like I'm sure many of the audience, chalked flowers getting shot to Wyoming. But when I went back and looked at the episodes, there were no Wyomings left. Omega was the only one who was active at the moment, and during the scene, he's in Caboose's head. So, a question that has been being asked for so long is, where did that shot come from? I'm sure they easily could have gotten away with continuing to say it was Wyoming, but I love the fact that this question mark that has existed for so long has just been given an answer. It filled in the blanks where things didn't make sense, and that's what I really liked happened here. So, while on the cliff, Sister and Tucker reflect on the good old days, the days where things were a lot more simple, not many things were on the line, when the show used to be about comedy. Wait, nope, they didn't say that. The conversation really felt like what a portion of commenters don't shut up about. They just keep yelling at the show to have the characters do nothing. In terms of the characters, Sister seems to be contradicting herself. At first, she was all about going on an adventure, but here she says she wants back to the simpler times. Meanwhile, with Tucker, nothing has really changed. Most of the Reds and Blues, I would say, don't want adventures. It's why after season 13, they hid on an island where no one knew where they were. They didn't want to do anything. Their inability to stay out of things is kinda their fault. They jumped on saving the Alpha, which, yeah, sure, that's perfectly understandable. But this, the whole time travel thing, no one's forcing them to travel around time. They could actually just go back to the moment they left and return there. Or maybe like an hour later. They don't want Kali Rama still lingering about. They say they don't want to do anything, and they don't have to. At some point, it becomes their fault. Speaking of things being their fault, the sex. Yes, as I'm sure everyone figured out immediately, Tucker and Sister's future versions cock-block their past versions, resulting in the no sex. And I will say, something that I immediately learned after watching this episode, I like the old audio better. I don't know when the show got the higher quality of audio, clearly it was a gradual progression, but hearing both the clear, crisp audio and the old filtered audio, the old one just sounds right to me. I love hearing the effect that's on their voice, and it's not nostalgia. Season 1's audio is trash, it's too much. But what they did with their past selves this episode, it just sounds so right. In terms of what else happened this episode, the rest was kinda just set up for what's to come. Sarge and Simmons are still at Broken Ridge. Sarge is upset with what had transpired with his old squad, and he wishes to make history right. His plan is to go back in time and assemble the greatest fighting force the world has ever seen, filled with the best, most elite soldiers. Once again, I can only hope this is not Project Freelancer, or has anything to do with it. I mean, other than that, there's really nothing to say about these two this episode. And finally, we are left with the biggest paradox, Doc and Griff. Griff has abandoned doing anything as well as trying to get others to join him, so he time travels to Samuel F. Yellow's only to see that it's no longer a pizza joint. It's now a calzone and stromboli restaurant. And this is where things begin to not make sense. The three kids they had encountered never heard of pizza. Griff gives us a frame of reference as to when this was. He was in college and it was right before he enlisted. Logic dictates that Griff entered the Great War era of the UNSC. The furthest back we know of Griff was when his entire platoon died while he was asleep during the Great War, and that's why he was sent to Blood Gulch. The Great War had lasted from the year 2525 to the year 2552. That is 27 years. In Red vs. Blue, the Great War ended after season 5. After Wyoming was defeated, the Great War subsided. By the time the director died in season 10, 5 years had passed. Chorus, we were given no time frame, I don't believe. But after Chorus, they disappeared for 10 months. So let's just say that another year's passed. That's 6 more years. So from the beginning of the Great War to within the moment in time Griff is in the present, that is a maximum of 33 years. And remember, Griff said that he's in college, so now that's being extremely generous and saying that Griff is in his 50s. So the time he's gone back makes the most sense at around 10 to 15 years ago is where they are. And you're telling me that pizza didn't exist until 15 years ago in Red vs. Blue? Nuh-uh. But then you're saying Griff kept asking what year it was, so maybe he didn't travel to when he was in college, he traveled even further back in time. And to that I would say, pizza was invented before the calzone, so even still it wouldn't make any sense. The only thing that I can imagine right here that would make an ounce of sense would be that Doc and Griff are in a completely different timeline. One without the existence of pizza, which in and of itself doesn't make sense. Everything so far has cemented it being a fixed timeline. Events happen a certain way, so no matter what you may do, you will only be the cause for whatever it is. So, why did pizza disappear? If nothing can be changed, why did something change? Not to try and be funny here, but it's a paradox. A past event being changed contradicts the character's inability to change the past. Any sort of logical sense cannot be applied here. Is the pizza quest so special because it's the one thing in history that can be changed? Because that's all I can think of right now. Any guesses for what's happening are just that, guesses. Because logic is out the window. Anyway, so because pizza doesn't exist anymore, Griff casually tries to commit suicide. They could use their time machine for very obvious purposes, however the pizza quest is still in full effect for Griff, so they're off. So, for the past 2 episodes, technically 3, there has been the shtick of something happened, we go back in time, we're the cause for the thing. Happened with Sammy Raffaello's destruction, Broken Ridge, Tucker and Sister's sex. The past 3 episodes, there has been a fixed moment in history that we are viewing. The thing is, if it keeps doing this, I feel as though it's gonna get real old real fast. It keeps giving us the punchline to a joke before telling us the joke. We as an audience immediately know how things are gonna play out. Something got all my soldiers killed. Well, I know where this is going. Someone was peeping on us having sex. Clearly it was you guys. I feel as though the season needs to start throwing something new at us. And it kind of did with the pizza change. But I don't think the season will last if every episode is going to rely on the same setup and same execution. It's gonna start needing to feed us more actual story, Muggins and Huggins, as well as whoever that guy was. There's no defined plot as of now. It's just the Reds and Blues going wherever they want in time, which is perfectly fine. But it's already established that there's more going on. So I feel as though the story really needs to be throwing some new stuff at us pretty soon. Now, this episode, I think was very good. Griff and Doc's bit, while I did go on about that, that's more so just speculation and trying to connect dots. Sarge and Simmons, they didn't do anything this episode, but I will say that it now probably has one of my favorite Simmons lines.
Y'all right?
I don't know why I found that so funny or just entertaining. I think it's maybe that he's just never talked like that or just no one has ever asked that question. I don't know, but it's definitely one of my new favorite lines. And with Sister and Tucker, while our journey wasn't anything special, most of my appreciation comes from the flowers moment. They didn't need to do it, but the fact that they decided to fill in a blank that the audience had was great. So because of that moment, I'm having a lot more faith in the time travel bits, but I'm still very hesitant on where it can go. But for now, that is going to do it for this episode. Be sure to like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you're interested in more content like this. Consider becoming a sponsor over on Patreon. It's only $3 a month to get all the content early, and it really does help out the channel. Be sure to follow me on all social medias, and I'll see you in the next video.